Well, folks, we're back. Back in the surreal timeline where Donald Trump is once again the leader of the free world. It's a scenario many thought was behind us, but history has a way of repeating itself. It feels like just yesterday we were celebrating his departure, but here we are staring down the barrel of a second Trump presidency. The political landscape is shifting once more and the stakes are higher than ever. Buckle up, America, because things are about to get bumpy. The roller coaster ride of American politics is about to take another wild turn and no one knows exactly where it will lead. In this dystopian sequel, Trump 2.0 promises to shake things up. His return is not just a continuation, but an escalation of his previous term. He's got big plans for immigration, foreign policy, the economy, and more. Each policy is a ticking time bomb that could redefine the American landscape, and even women's reproductive rights. His stance on these issues has already sparked widespread debate and protest. And let's not forget his unique approach to democracy itself. Questions about election integrity and democratic norms are more pressing than ever. Over the next few sections, we're going to take a deep dive into the potential consequences of Trump's return. We'll explore the ripple effects that could touch every corner of American life. We'll examine his policy pronouncements, dissect his rhetoric, and scrutinize his every move, and try to make sense of what this all means for America's future. The implications are vast and complex, affecting not just the present, but the generations to come. So grab a stiff drink, settle in, and let's try to understand what the hell just happened. It's going to be a long, strange trip, and we're just getting started. One of the most concerning aspects of a second Trump term is his apparent disdain for the norms of American democracy. His actions and rhetoric have consistently undermined the very principles that hold the nation together. From questioning the legitimacy of elections to attacking the free press, Trump has shown a willingness to erode the foundations of democratic governance. It's like he learned nothing from his first impeachment, which, let's be honest, felt about as consequential as a parking ticket. The impeachment process, meant to be a serious check on presidential power, was reduced to a partisan spectacle, leaving many to wonder if accountability is even possible. Trump has made it clear that he intends to consolidate power, potentially sidelining any pesky checks and balances that get in his way. This isn't just about personal ambition, it's about reshaping the entire structure of American governance to fit his vision, one where dissent is stifled and loyalty is rewarded above all else. He's talking about packing government agencies with loyalists, people who prioritize his agenda over the good of the nation. This could lead to a government that serves the interests of one man rather than the diverse needs of its people, fundamentally altering the nature of public service. Imagine the IRS being used to target political opponents, or the National Park Service being run by a guy who thinks climate change is a hoax. The implications are staggering, affecting everything from tax policy to environmental protection, and potentially reversing decades of progress. It's enough to make you want to move to Canada, and not even the fun part with the poutine and universal healthcare. But wait, there's more. The erosion of democratic norms isn't just a domestic issue, it has global ramifications, weakening America's position on the world stage and emboldening autocrats everywhere. Thanks to a recent Supreme Court decision, Trump might actually be immune from criminal prosecution for actions taken while in office. This sets a dangerous precedent, suggesting that a sitting president is above the law, a notion that flies in the face of the very idea of a republic. That's right, folks. We might have just handed the keys to the kingdom to a man who thinks the Constitution is something you order at a steakhouse. The stakes couldn't be higher, and the future of American democracy hangs in the balance. It's a sobering thought, but one that demands our attention and action. Immigration was a defining issue of Trump's first term, and it continues to be a cornerstone of his political agenda. From the moment he announced his candidacy, he made it clear that he intended to take a hardline stance on immigration, and it seems he's not done building walls, both literally and figuratively. The physical wall along the southern border is just one part of a broader strategy to limit immigration. He's hinted at mass deportations, potentially even larger in scale than those seen during his first presidency. This could mean a significant increase in the number of ICE raids and detentions. Imagine families being torn apart, children being separated from their parents, all in the name of making America great again. The emotional and psychological toll on these families is immeasurable. To achieve this, Trump plans to cozy up to local law enforcement, particularly in states where the governors are basically his cheerleaders. This partnership could lead to increased cooperation in immigration enforcement. It's a recipe for potential abuse and discrimination, targeting vulnerable communities who are just trying to build a better life. These policies could disproportionately affect people of color and those from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. The irony is, of course, that America was built by immigrants. It's in our DNA. From the early settlers to the waves of immigrants who arrived in the 19th and 20th centuries, each group has contributed to the nation's growth and diversity. But for some reason, Trump seems to think that shutting the doors and pulling up the drawbridge is the way to make America great. This isolationist approach ignores the benefits that immigrants bring to the economy and culture. It's enough to make you wonder if he's ever actually looked at a history book, or if he just uses them to prop up his ego on his nightstand. Understanding history is crucial to making informed decisions about the future. Trump's approach to foreign policy has always been, shall we say, unconventional. He's like a bull in a china shop, except the china shop is the Middle East and the bull is wearing a MAGA hat. In his second term, Trump appears to be doubling down on his support for a more aggressive Israeli stance in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. He's criticized the current administration's attempts at restraint, essentially giving carte blanche to further escalation. This is a region already grappling with decades of conflict and bloodshed, and Trump's rhetoric is like pouring gasoline on a bonfire. Since the Hamas attack last October, over 40,000 Palestinians have lost their lives. It's a humanitarian crisis of staggering proportions. And yet Trump seems more interested in scoring political points than in finding a peaceful resolution. It's like he's playing a game of Risk with real human lives. Section 5, a woman's right to choose. In a move that will surprise absolutely no one, Trump has vowed to pursue a national abortion ban. It's a blatant attack on women's reproductive rights, and it's terrifying to think that this is even a possibility in the 21st century. He claims to support IVF and women's health, but his actions speak louder than words. He's surrounded himself with anti-abortion activists and judges, people who seem to believe that women are nothing more than vessels for childbirth. Trump's stance on abortion is not just about restricting access to a medical procedure. It's about controlling women's bodies, their lives, and their futures. It's a chilling reminder that the fight for reproductive justice is far from over. Section 6, a tariff too far? Remember when Trump used to rail against Japan's trade practices? Well, it seems like he's had a change of heart, or at least a change of tactic. He's now proposing a 10% tariff on all foreign imports, a move that has economists shaking their heads in disbelief. This is basically a tax on American consumers, plain and simple. It's going to drive up the price of everything from cars to clothes to coffee. And who's going to suffer the most? Working-class families who are already struggling to make ends meet. But hey, at least Trump's wealthy friends will be happy. After all, they're the ones who can afford to shrug off a little price hike. It's just another example of Trump's economic policies benefiting the rich at the expense of everyone else. Section 7, the opposition mounts. The good news is that Trump's return hasn't been met with universal applause. In fact, it's sparked a wave of resistance across the country, from grassroots organizations to civil rights groups to concerned citizens. People are mobilizing to fight against Trump's agenda. Protests are erupting in cities and towns across America. People are writing to their representatives, donating to advocacy groups, and using their voices to demand better. The fight for America's soul is on, and it's inspiring to see so many people refusing to be silenced. The resistance is diverse, it's passionate, and it's growing stronger by the day. It's a sign that even in these dark times, there's still hope for a better future. Section 8, a nation divided. Trump's presidency has been a masterclass in division. He thrives on stoking the flames of discord, pitting Americans against each other along lines of race, religion, and political ideology. And it seems like his second term will be no different. The political climate is already toxic, and Trump's rhetoric is only making things worse. Families are being torn apart over political differences. Neighbors are suspicious of each other. Civil discourse has been replaced by shouting matches and online trolling. It's a dangerous game that Trump is playing, and it's one that America can ill afford. We need to find a way to come together, to bridge the divides that separate us, or we risk tearing ourselves apart. Section 9. What comes next? So, what does the future hold for America under a second Trump presidency? Honestly, it's hard to say for sure, but one thing is certain: it's going to be a wild ride. We can expect more chaos, more controversy, and more attacks on the very foundations of American democracy. The stakes have never been higher, and the fight for America's future is just beginning. It's up to each and every one of us to stay informed, to stay engaged, and to never stop fighting for the America we believe in. The future may be uncertain, but one thing's for sure: we're in for a bumpy ride.